We need to take some time to unpack all of this. Unpack all of this. All of this. And I'm going to need you to bear with me, because this is what the media has picked up on. And it's a sensational story, don't get me wrong. But is it a true representation of what happened yesterday? I say no. Now, did people get upset and walk out? Absolutely. But we're going to unpack all of that. So the Committee on the Status of Women had an emergency meeting yesterday, wherein the meeting was called in very short notice. For some. For others, I'm sure they'd been planning this for quite some time. Planning it so much so that they had witnesses that they were bringing to speak to the issue. And the issue was intimate partner violence. However, in calling the meeting, the courtesy was not extended to other people on the committee so that they could prepare and in turn potentially bring their own witnesses to speak to the very same issue. But all that we're hearing about is that voices were silenced, because that's what gets the headline, the soundbite, the rage. But did people watch it? Did you watch the hour plus of the committee? I did. Now, Michelle Ferreri indicated that this emergency meeting was called because there's a crisis and policy needs to be reviewed. It is a crisis. It's not a new crisis, but it is a crisis. And so the Conservative Party of Canada brought 3 witnesses, all to speak on their experience, their knowledge and understanding, but not one of them really spoke to the solution. It was just that it's not working. Now, I'm not going to say the witnesses were skewed to the Conservative side, because I believe in the heart of hearts, they really want something better for everybody. But again, there was no opportunity for any other party to bring their own witnesses. Now, the deputy police chief certainly did start off talking about intimate partner violence, and then drifted off into carjackings and home invasions and bail reform. No solution, just bail reform. Now, just so that people are aware, there was bail reform in 2019, and then there was bail reform earlier this year. Now, the whole premise of whether someone gets bail or doesn't get bail is based on a variety of things. Past convictions, risk to the public. But this amendment added reversed onus. It increased the reversed onus, which although an individual is innocent until proven guilty, and that applies for everybody. That's why people like Pat King got bail initially. But the reverse onus looks at a bunch of different things, which would ultimately support the denial of bail. Now, all 3 witnesses talked a lot about the criminal justice system, how the accused seem to have free reign, how some court cases get tossed out, and how some get stayed. Now, in situations where court cases get stayed, it's not because the person is innocent. It's because there's not enough information to be able to provide a conviction. So the Crown will stay the matter. It can be reopened if there's more evidence that comes forward. But in terms of cases being thrown out, 9.98% of time, it's because there's not enough staff to pursue the cases. Not enough Crown, not enough administrative support. And guess whose fault that is? The provinces. Guess who administrates the bail? The provinces. And when these bail reforms happened, they were done in consultation with the provinces. But let's get back to yesterday's meeting, because we know the Conservative Party of Canada never does anything without an agenda. Now, I believe, and it's only my opinion, that this was a setup by the Conservative Party of Canada, and the collateral damage were the witnesses. Now, I don't know what the witnesses were told about attending the committee meeting. I don't know what promises they were given. I don't know if they were schooled in committee procedure. But if you tell somebody you're going to have an opportunity to come and speak your truth and everybody's going to hear you and they're finally going to care, and you potentially set them up for failure, of course they're going to get mad and turn their backs on the committee and then walk out. Now, what happened yesterday in this committee is a fucking embarrassment, but not for the reason you think. I think the whole premise of the committee meeting yesterday was destined to fail. And then the actual behaviors within the committee yesterday are fucking embarrassing. So I'm going to play you some clips, because if you haven't watched it, you need to understand that the headline doesn't explain the entire meeting and is actually manipulating the trauma and experiences of the witnesses for a political agenda. Because everybody sitting on the Committee of the Status of Women care about intimate partner violence. But a lot of good points were raised in the meeting, not from the Conservatives, so just take a look.
I want to reassure you, both of you, but especially Kate, because you said that you don't believe that any of us care. And I want to reassure you very much that all of us on this committee care very deeply. It's why we've done so many studies on intimate partner violence. We've had testimony like yours that is very difficult to hear, but has been very, very important to put recommendations. And we believe you, and we believe others like you. And our government has put many, many measures to try to make sure that the things that happen to you don't happen to others. Numerous bills, Bill C-51 on amending sexual assault laws, C-75 on bail reforms, C-48 now that targets repeat offenders of intimate partner violence, C-28 on intoxication not being used as a defense, C-63 on online harms. We have a national action plan on gender-based violence that has been signed by all the provinces. And we've put $539 million in budget 2022 behind that, something that the Conservatives actually voted against. So I want to start everything that I say by saying that if anyone tries to say that there's anyone in this room who doesn't care about this issue, I think that they are playing partisan games, because people in this room have spent our lives fighting on this issue, listening to that kind of testimony, and I just want to reassure you of that.
That's Anita Vandenbeld, the Liberal MP that's being vilified by the Conservatives for dismissing victims of intimate partner violence. But that's not really how it played out in the meeting now, is it? Now, one of the witnesses stood up with their passport and said that they were embarrassed of their Canadian passport because they're not safe in Canada. They live in the U.S. now. This is in no way to take away from the trauma that this person went through or the experiences that the other witnesses brought to the table. It was just done in the wrong way. And it was done in the wrong way because of Conservatives. Because committees have agendas. They have ongoing issues. They have minutes. They have procedure. And this pitting of women's issue, when intimate partner violence encompasses so much more, trans issues, non-binary issues, Indigenous issues. But it's pitting issue against issue, because this is what happened next.
I just want to reassure you of that. I also do, with respect, want to talk a little bit about how this meeting came about. We have had studies that we've all agreed on to talk about these issues. In fact, we're in the middle of a study right now on coercive control, which we have put a number of witnesses that we'd like to hear from as a committee. But we know that the Leader of the Opposition has asked Conservative-chaired committees to hold as many meetings as possible during the summer to take us away from the important work that we're doing listening to our constituents. And we also know that in this case, it was a few days' notice. We were not given, any of the members except Conservatives, the opportunity to put forth witness names, which is something that every committee does just out of basic fairness and respect. And I personally would have had a number of witness names that I would have loved to have heard from. In fact, there were witness names added an hour before the meeting so that members didn't even have a chance to plan or prepare what kind of questions we might want to ask. I know that for this committee, this is something we've never done. We do not use victims and survivors' trauma to try to score political points in this committee.
And then she referenced something that was tabled from the last meeting, which, if this is a continuation of the committee, probably should have been dealt with first. But that's likely not what was presented to the witnesses, or that it's even a possibility that they're going to reference what's still open. Now, I don't have time on here to show you all the clips that I pulled, because there's a lot showing absolute disregard for procedure by the chair. Shelby Crump-Newman, CPC MP, who visibly sighed at the number of points of order when she ignored the hand of another MP, Leah Gazan, who had her hand up long before Michelle Ferreri, except Shelby just kept making excuses and wouldn't concede. Leah, who's an MP from Manitoba, also would have liked to have been able to bring witnesses, and pointed out the fact that there were no Indigenous witnesses, members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, and Michelle Ferreri had the caucasity to say that Kate Alexander, in her witness testimony, spoke to all groups, provided examples from all groups. You see the problem I have with that? It still doesn't give a voice to those marginalized groups. Again, we're pitting things against each other, things that are important. Now, I highly encourage people to go and watch the hour and a bit. I know it's taking time out of your day, but you need to see it goes beyond the headline. All issues related to women and female presenting people are important, but it's the cons who manipulated it for a headline. Witnesses should be mad at them.